Alright, so I've been doing my rounds on the dot stuff, so you shouldn't be surprised to see another. Today I'm going to explain a unique interaction between Starshot's Big Bang mod and Energized Neck Coil, and full credit to Random Spectator for making this known. I'll link their video in the description. So Starshot's mod is special in that it's the only dot source in the game that can apply dots of different strengths depending on how many charges you spend. So now also remember that individual dot sources can only apply their dot once. They're not allowed to stack. So when you shoot a boss with 5 charges of Big Bang and apply the maximum strength dot, that dot is the only one that Starshot is allowed to apply. But then, even though the dots from the same source can't stack, we can reapply the dot while it's still going, which will reset it to its max duration. So what all of this means is that first we can keep the max strength dot going forever just by shooting the boss with single charges, which is nice but nothing too crazy. Since we're reapplying the existing fire dot from the same source, the new dot we're applying is inheriting its damage from the existing one, which makes sense since punishing you for using the mod again by erasing your 5-stack dot with a weaker one would be kind of feels bad. It's also important to note that this works in reverse though. So if your initial use of Big Bang only used 1 charge, you're going to be stuck at the 1 charge burn value until it expires, no matter how many charges you spend on subsequent uses. So it's 36 right there. I'm going to get 5 charges. Cannot change the initial dot. You would have to wait for this to expire and then reapply the stronger dot. And I'll come back to this again in a second since it can be important. At this point though, you can probably see where this is going, but when we add in Energized Neck Coil, things get a little ridiculous. Since our new dot is inheriting its damage from the existing one, we also get an Energized Neck Coil explosion using that full damage, again from any amount of charges. And if you've seen my guide to dots, you'll know that Starshot's burn actually scales with mod damage, meaning its dot is way stronger than the description even suggests. And the Energized Neck Coil proc from it is absolutely gigantic. Now I'll talk about the build, and afterwards I'll give some damage numbers. So the build I've got here is the exact same one I showed in my video explaining Energized Neck Coil, except I swapped out Firestorm for Monolith to ensure we always trigger Energized Neck Coil using Big Bang, and I also swapped out Amplitude for Chakra to keep the sandstorms going longer. I've also got Reprocessed Heart here, which is actually very important against bosses that have some sort of mechanic or phase change that cleanses them of status effects like Annihilation or the One True King, which is why I made sure to include them in the demo fights, although the One True King got evaporated before that could even happen. But anyway, our single charge Big Bang, for it to inherit the maximum strength dot, we need to make sure our first burn from Starshot uses 5 charges, and Reprocessed Heart is the best option to regain that mod power quickly in a pinch. Healing options besides Profane Heart don't work anyway because we've got Death Wish permanently active, which also gives us lifesteal for sustain anyway. So for the first time, I'm going to strongly recommend using this specific relic, at least for bossing. You can also just eat the relic regardless of the boss for even more sandstorms and stronger Starshot explosions, but as you can see from the fights, the damage is already quite high because Energized Neck Coil is doing around 70% of a 5-charge Big Bang's damage every 5 seconds. And to finish off the relic, the fragments are mod damage, elemental damage, mod costs, which are pretty self-explanatory. Otherwise, just to run through the items that are still the same, we're obviously using Energized Net Coil and therefore Timekeeper's Jewel, Stone of Malevolence combined with feedback on Monolith with the Sandstorm generates a constant stream of mod power. Red Ring of Death is still good since Starshot's burn is so strong. And then finally, Burden of the Stylist improves Sandstorm as well as the direct and dot damage of Starshot. Now for some numbers on how strong this is. We'll assume both Death Wish and Exposed are active since we have permanent uptime on both. I'm not including Chaos Gate, but since the stacks fall off one by one, you'll actually have up to 35% more all damage than these numbers are going to consider. And there's also applying Corroded, but I'm just not going to work that in, but it just comes in as plus 10% more all damage. So first we get 2 burn dots thanks to Red Ring of Death, and with all of our damage increases plus the Vile Prime perk, these are going to tick for 285 damage and some change each, which is already 1141 damage per second without us doing anything. Then there's the direct and explosive damage of Starshot, which will both deal 2,778.75 damage each at max stacks. Well, crit. For a total of 5,557.5 damage. Finally, there's Energized Net Coil, which contributes 4,302 damage, for a total of 9,866.7 damage from a 5-charge Big Bang plus Energized Net Coil proc. When we only use a single charge, the direct and explosive damage will only deal 516.76 damage each, but the Energized Net Coil damage stays the same, meaning a single charge Big Bang plus Energized Net Coil proc will still deal 5,342.7 damage, which is about 96% of the 5-charge Big Bang's damage without the Net Coil. In reality, the number of charges you consume is going to vary slightly depending on how many sandstorms you have going to feed you mod power, and whether you need to slightly delay a proc to dodge or something. So your damage per Big Bang plus Energized Net Coil proc every 5 seconds will be somewhere between these two values. And when you combine this damage with the very substantial damage we're already getting from the dots, plus the damage from Sandstorm, well, you can just check the demo fights. That's about it though. Enjoy.